Hey, it's Frank here with Frank's DIY and Homeowner Help, and today we are going to unbox, install, and review this Leviton Decora timer. So it's a universal timer that will do LED lights that are dimmable, and it'll do non-LED lights. It's a pretty decent little bit of engineering that goes into this, because you can see it's got sort of 4 settings: 30 minutes, 15 minutes, 10 minutes, 5 minutes, and then that's the off switch. But you can also override the timer. If you push and hold this top button for, I don't know, 5-10 seconds, then it just turns it on permanently until you turn it off. I don't know why you would want to do that, but in case you wanted to do that. You can also change the duration of all these switches. So you can make this, instead of 30 minutes, you can make it 1 hour, 2 hours, whatever you want. So I think half an hour is perfectly fine. The reason why I'm installing this is because of this. So my kid just had a shower, they left. They sometimes remember to turn the light off because it's visual, but there's so many mornings when I wake up in the morning and this fan has been left on from a shower the night before. So now we install this, and that hopefully eliminates that, saves us a bunch of energy. And we know as well that, you know, if they're using the 30-minute timer, that's a good amount of time to exhaust the moisture in this room. This is a small bathroom. It's got a nice fan in it, not top of the line, not quite the bottom of the line, but probably closer to the bottom or the middle than the top, that's for sure. But just need to get the moisture out of here, because this 3 kids use this bathroom, so you can see with the paraphernalia. And yeah, half an hour after their shower would be the perfect amount of time to ventilate this thing up. Now, getting back to Leviton, getting back to this switch, I've actually had problems with Leviton before, and let me tell you the problem I had. So the switch before this one, so the model that they made before this one, I installed at my old house, and then, you know, I hit the switch and I heard this bzz and saw this electrical arcing flame behind it, right, like a little spark. So that ain't good. I went and uninstalled the switch, went to take it back, and then realized they stopped making that one and they replaced it with this one. So, and that was a common problem. I researched it a little later, and I was moving out of that house, so it wasn't worth going after the warranty and that kind of stuff or pursuing them. But I just installed a replacement and got out of there. But this one apparently doesn't have that same problem, which is good. It will tend to burn your house down less. So I'm going to unbox this, I'm going to install it, just run it through its paces, make sure it works, and Bob's your uncle. Shouldn't be a big deal. Again, I will tell you, I will give you my standard electrical disclaimer. I am not an electrician, I don't pretend to be one, and I don't even play one on TV. So this is a job that usually requires an electrician as far as code goes, at least in most places. Most homeowners should be able to do this themselves. So if you're apt and you've done some electrical work and you don't mind doing it, take these safety precautions. You should be able to do this okay. And thanks for joining me. So if this chart is correct, what we're looking at here is 2nd floor washroom, hall lights. So number 16, that's you. Make sure when you flip your breaker, flip it all the way down. You'll find it's really easy to turn it off. That's how you know you're turning it off. It's spring loaded so that it turns off easily, and it requires a lot more force to turn it back on. So let's go check. Okay, so I turned the power off, and you can see the room is dark. But even with the power off, I'm still going to assume the power is on, and I'm going to test everything with my handy dandy tester. So this thing, you see the light is green. If you touch something that's hot, it'll turn red and flash constantly. So sometimes you touch something and you get the odd little red flash. That's just because of contact, maybe even some actual static electricity or friction that you're causing. But if it flashes and beeps non-stop, that's when you know it's hot. Okay, so let's open this up and have a look. Okay, so this is the one we're going to be replacing. So you pull it out, just make sure you don't touch the side of the box or the side of the switch against the box, because you might get a little spark. And so there you go. You got 2 screws in there. Pretty simple installation. We'll have to connect black to black and black to red in this case, and we'll also have to connect white. So we'll have to go in there and pull out the white cables as well. So let's just make sure this thing is dead. Yeah, no power in there. Okay. So these switches are dirt simple. You don't even have to loop the cables around the brass screws here. You just pull them straight out. See that? They just trap right under this little kind of platform that pinches them down, and then the screw applies a force down to keep them in there. You used to have to loop them around this. It was just wasted time making those silly loops. Okay, so here's what this looks like. I'll remove this cover. But you look at the back here, and this can be used either for a single pole or a three-way switch. So when you're getting the three-way, you're getting into 3 hot wires, and you see this label. This label is what tells you which wire is supposed to be the hot wire that you use for three-way. This is single pole, so we won't be using this wire. We will be using this, which is the ground wire, which we will attach to the box. Then we're using red and black. For all intents and purposes, red and black are the same. They're both hot wires, and we'll connect one to each of these. We'll connect white to white, and we'll connect green to the box, and that should work out. So what I do is I will always expose the cable, and you see this is a multi-strand cable. You see how there's a bunch of strands there? I take it and I just give it a good twist, just to make sure all the strands stay together. If not, you start messing around in there and you get strands that go all haywire and all over the place. Not really good to work that way. So hopefully you can see how that ground cable went in there. Where is it? There it is. Okay, you see how there are 2 tabs? There's a tab on either side of that grounding screw. It means that all you have to do is get the cable inside of that tab and then screw down that screw, and it catches it in there really nicely. And see how it does end up squishing the strands, but see how all the strands stay together really nicely because they are twisted. That's just a good bit of advice, good way to do it. I'm just going to remove this cover because we don't need it. We'll be using the old cover. Now we'll connect black to black and black to red, and it does not matter which one you connect it to. This just can provide one continuous path all the way through this switch. Putting on these minuites, this is what, at least I call a minuet here in Canada. It's also called wire nuts, that kind of thing. The number of cables you have and the gauge of the cables determines what size one you get. This is the right one for 14 gauge and 2 cables, I guess. And what you do to make it easy for yourself is just line up these cables so that they're nice and parallel to each other. Nice and together, and the tips are together. Okay? Once they're together like that, you put them right on. You make sure they all line up and get in. There's a little spring in there that as you twist the minuet on, the spring widens and screws itself onto the wires and cables and screws them together and holds them together. Once you get it really on, really strong, you can see how the cables are starting to twist. Just give each one a pull just to make sure they won't come off. So you see we've got the 2 blacks connected. We'll connect this white, and then we'll turn on the power and give it a test before we put it all back together. I turned on the power, and hey, we got lights. That's a good first step. Now, let's see if this thing works. That sounds good. So you get the green LED light there beside the amount of time that you selected. And as you can probably hear, fan's working. One thing that I do that I've seen most electricians do, and I think it's a great idea, it's cheap insurance, is any hot connection that I have, so these are the 2 hot connections here, I always tape them with electrical tape. And if it's just something that might lock in the cables into the minuet, might prevent them from coming out. Maybe if they do come out disconnected, they don't leave this area and they don't touch the electrical box, which would cause a short. So, or maybe make the electrical box active, right? So, again, cheap thing to have. Anytime you do electrical work, you always got to have electrical tape with you for this very reason. Here, 2-second job. not even a two-penny job, and it increases your level of safety. Another thing I always do when I tighten the switch on is I don't tighten it all the way. I tighten it basically just to where it's just touching the drywall, and then I'll dry fit the cover just to make sure it's going to fit properly. You get in the right space. Sometimes I've torqued it on, then it doesn't fit, and you got to pull it off, and you got to unscrew them. Then, you know what I mean? So just don't tighten them all the way. Fit that cover on, make sure it's fit nicely and you're happy with it. And then you can just do the last couple of turns of the screw. So I just go just to where they're touching the drywall. Okay, so this is what I mean. So the switch has to come over this way a little bit. Here's the final product, and I'm happy with it. You got your 30-minute timer, your 15-minute timer, 10 and 5, and if you want to, you can change them. You can reprogram them to be 1 hour or up to 2 hours, I think, on the top one. So, and then you've got your off switch here, which kills it, and that's it. So far so good with the Leviton. This is a little bit stressed out here. I should just shave a little bit off this cover here. See how it's getting into the silicone there from this door trim? So it's stressing out the cover a little bit, so we'll see how that goes. If that bugs me enough, I'll get around to changing it. But for now, that's the Leviton switch, and so far I'm happy with it. Let's see if it lasts. Thanks for joining me.